All right, joining the show now. I don't like the bet one bit.
I don't care if you don't like it.
Live from Radio Row in Miami with a tough job, our friend, the great Jeff Thurn from ESPN Radio.
Hey, Jeff.
How you guys doing this morning?
All right.
Doing fantastic.
How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, man. You know, about 10 years ago when the Super Bowl was here, it was my first Super Bowl I covered. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have 3 kids. My energy levels were a lot different, and my experience during Miami week was a little bit different. And even now, we had a fun week, but it was a little bit more tame than what I did about 10 years ago in this city.
Yeah, you're going through withdrawals, getting the sweats right now? I got to shake this wife and kids.
I've been very jealous of those dudes in their mid-20s that can stay up past 11 o'clock. So.
We talked about it just off the air briefly. The Barstool guys running around causing hell?
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, when you get about $440 million for your company, you can do whatever you want. So they're out here throwing around all kinds of that money with the Roger Goodell clown face stuff on some of the taxi cabs, on of course, the airplanes that are flying around the ocean. And then the other night, it was hilarious. Those Barstool guys, once again, got into media night by dressing up as old people and fooling the NFL. Once again,
of course,
it's so
they
funny,
did.
guys. I think it's hilarious with Barstool. If the NFL just let them, go into these different events, they get less attention than they get by not letting them in. So, the NFL just plays into the Barstool hands. I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, well, that's the NFL style. What is other than Kobe Bryant, and I'll get to that in a second, so obviously it's a big news story, what is the buzz around Radio Row that maybe the folks that are back, not on Radio Row don't know about?
I think one of the main things is, especially for the media members, is we're not covering that team up there in Massachusetts for the first time in however many years. So the new faces, the fresh faces, and I think that the 2 quarterbacks being so young is what everybody's talking about on Radio Row. And I think that the narrative for Super Bowls are so funny because everybody thinks they know what's going to happen. But this year it seems like everybody has the same idea of what they think is going to happen. If San Francisco wins, it's going to be, that defense standing up and making some big plays. And on the flip side, if Kansas City wins, it's the obvious choice that Patrick Mahomes is going to have a big game. So I hope that's the case, man, because if we get that, it should be a fun Super Bowl with these 2 teams.
I have no feel for this game. None. I would not
crazy,
bet.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's when you got to pick them like that to start, and the line moves to 1.5. Vegas is telling you that they maybe don't have as much of an idea this year as in the past, but they've been able to get some bets on Kansas City and move that line. But yeah, it just feels weird, man. Normally you have an idea of one team being significantly better or close to being better, and it just doesn't feel like these 2 teams are too different in talent.
Now, Roger Goodell did his State of the League address during Media Week, and we heard about continuing safety measures, referees. By the way, Jeff Thurn, ESPN Radio, joining us live from Radio Row in Miami at the Super Bowl. What about the league wanting to add games? We know they do. We know the players don't want it. We know that it has to be collectively bargained. Has he talked about that? Has it been addressed?
Yeah, I've talked to a couple, actually, of league personnel outside of that press conference yesterday, and I was just asking them, is this just a bargaining tool, or is this going to be something that they actually push for? And the league response is, yeah, we're actually going to push for this. I still contend it's just going to be something that they can put out on the table when they're negotiating the split between the league revenue and trying to keep things more on par with what they are right now than having a significant jump with revenue. So, yeah, I just think it's going to be a grandstanding tool that, we want to have these games, and if you guys don't want these games, then we need to keep the revenue the way it is. If you guys want to have a bigger split, well, we have to play an additional regular season game. So the NFL is not new to these negotiations. I think that they're going to play hardball, and you know what? If it comes to it, and there's a huge enough split, maybe some of the players do push for it. Man, I'm hard pressed to think it's actually going to happen, though.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow up. I don't think it's realistic either. And Kobe Bryant, are they telling anybody what they are planning in terms of a ceremony? We keep hearing rumors.
Yeah, the LA folks that we know, they've kind of been. Here's what I think the Lakers have done. I think the Lakers, because it was such a family thing, and it wasn't like Kobe Bryant played for 5 other teams. It's really affected everyone over there, from ticket salespeople to front office personnel. So I think that they're taking their time in the way that they're going to do things internally. We saw them cancel that game against the Clippers earlier in the week, and they've been the one that hasn't released a statement like we've seen everyone else. We finally heard from his wife, who's dealing with such a tragedy. But yeah, I think there's going to be some things. We saw the All-Star game now has changed formats to try to be more conducive to a Kobe game where you're playing more one-on-one than maybe you were 5-on-5, but it's split up now differently, and they've never done that before with the All-Star game. I don't know that they changed the logo or anything like that, but what's interesting down here, guys, is on Monday night was media night, and I've never seen it where there's one question about one topic that everybody gets asked about and to see the emotional response from all kinds of guys. Frank Clark, who grew up in L.A., was talking about, as a kid, there was Kobe Bryant, and you looked at him as the guy that you could be and not be in a gang when you grew up in South Central. And every single dude, whether they grew up in L.A. or whether they grew up in Minneapolis, had something to say about Kobe Bryant on Monday. It was crazy. It just seems so surreal that it happened, but you find yourself going, wow. Dude, like, I couldn't believe that one person had such an impact on just such a plethora of players throughout the National Football League, not even the NBA. It was really unique, and it was really neat to see how much admiration these players had for him.
Yeah, it's wild, and that so often happens when we lose people young. We find out that they had a greater impact than we thought. This is the most interesting wrinkle of this game to me, of all the sub-stories in terms of drama, and it's Jimmy Garoppolo. If he wins this game, we're going to look back at that trade even deeper than we already have. And we already all have a lot of thoughts about it. I mean, this looked like Belichick's opportunity to stay in New England, continue dominating the league, and Brady and Kraft, as it's been rumored, all but forced Jimmy out and made Belichick give him away for a song. If the 49ers win, it's almost an exclamation point on what I believe to be the death of the dynasty. Do you think that this is the big story if they win?
I thought that was going to be the case, and I thought we were going to hear way more about that, but it's funny. I asked quite a few different people. I mean, I'm talking about analysts and former players and stuff. And I said, is Belichick and New England looking at this and going, damn, we have to watch this in front of us now, Jimmy G go win a Super Bowl? And they said, man, they won 2 since. So if you were making that argument, you had to be under the assumption that Jimmy G would have won both of those Super Bowls, and you would have to be under the assumption that he would win one more to get you 3 since that whole ordeal went down. So if you believe Jimmy G would have won those 2 games and then got you another one, then yeah, you can make that narrative. But they weren't convinced that would have happened. And I mean, I love Jimmy G, man. I think people forget that this dude was throwing it over 50 times a game when he was at Eastern Illinois. So that game we saw against the Packers isn't sort of the norm, more so sort of a mix between what we saw against the Saints and some of these other matchups within the division. But yeah, I mean, I guess you just have to decide what you think would have happened. And since none of us know, I think it's a great debate. I was leaning with you, man. I sort of thought that Jimmy G would have probably won at least one of those, and then you have 5 or 7 more years after that to win at least 1 or 2 more. So, yeah, I think when it's all said and done, it's revisionist history, but we don't really know what would have happened unless they actually played the game.
Yeah, but Jeff, forget what would have happened. Let's just say Jimmy wins this one, and next year Tom Brady is a Charger or a Titan. I think then the narrative, we look back at that even deeper.
Even with the 2 Super Bowls?
Yeah, even with the 2 Super Bowls, because it's over. It's over, Jeff.
What's over?
The dynasty is over, and
that.
if Jimmy wins, we all move on with our lives. This is beautiful.
Yeah, but everybody else down here is celebrating the fact that it's over. Everybody not up in the Northeast is so happy that New England is not here. So they're celebrating it, and I think that's one of the reasons why maybe they're not talking about it as much. It's because they're so happy they don't have to cover the Patriots.
Yeah, Jeff Thurn, ESPN Radio affiliate out of, what is it, South Dakota, right? South Dakota.
Yes,
he's joining us live from Radio Row in Miami. This is exciting stuff. What show is the least respected or most annoying on Radio Row? I've noticed that this is a new trend on Radio Row, is some of these jackholes, for lack of a better term, go down there and try to make themselves the news story. I know this has happened. I had a buddy who was part of a team I won't mention that was down there a couple of years ago that ended up being in the news. Is there a show? Come on, Jeff, you can do this. Is there a show that's acting a fool down there?
Wow, man. You know what's funny is I know what show you're talking about there, and there's been a couple other ones where we've seen guys get removed from Radio Row, have their passes restricted and things like that. I don't know if it's just that, I'm getting out of there, right at 3 o'clock to get to the beach, so I'm not trying to, watch all the drama that happens as guys are coming off of whatever things they use as hangover cures. But I'm telling you, this year has been the most tame on Radio Row. I don't hear the guy across Radio Row screaming and yelling about something that nobody cares about. I haven't seen, and that's the thing, there's a lot more Spanish-speaking radio stations that are at Radio Row this year, considering our proximity. And I failed Spanish, so maybe they're acting a fool, and I just don't know what they're saying. But there's not the craziness that we've seen before on Radio Row. The other night, there was obviously people at media night trying to make it about themselves, people dressing up, doing that stuff. But it's more. considering it's Miami, it's kind of shocking. It's a little bit more tame on the Radio Row.
This means Jeff is sitting next to the annoying show.
Yeah.
No, man, trust me, man. I have no problem calling him out. I hate that stuff, but I absolutely have not seen one so far this year.
Are there any guys? I got a question. Real quick.
All right.
Are there any guys with hockey jerseys on?
No hockey jerseys in Miami.
Cool.
I am going to say a little bit of something about that friend of ours, and Ethan knows who he is because he wasn't part. He was part of the incident a couple of years back, but he wasn't the problem. It's Mike Meltzer. He used to work here.
Right.
And Mike's partner got into it with a guy from another show who he was the one who was acting a fool. So we actually had Mike on to talk about that, so I could say that.
Oh, yeah, it was great drama, man. Sure.
All right, the big question. Who wins this game?
Okay, so I think everybody, when they look at the Super Bowl, they want to break down different aspects. I like to break down what everybody's betting on because there's a reason that they have those big buildings in the desert, and I think that's because most time people are wrong. So I look at the Super Bowl, and considering it's the most heavy bet game of the year, I think that there's some things you can lean on. Everybody's betting the over. Everybody's betting Kansas City. I think it's more likely that everybody's right on Kansas City winning it than it is the over. So I will say that I'll take the under 54.5. Kind of ironic considering it's Super Bowl 54. And I'll take Kansas City. The line's up to 1.5. I think they win the game, and I think they cover the spread. So I'll take Kansas City and the under. I think the run defense for Kansas City can slow down a guy that I call him Mozart. I don't even actually know what his real name is. But the dude that went for plus 200 against the Packers, I think he gets slowed down a little bit, and Mahomes has enough offensive power to get the win. So I'll give Andy Reid his first dub in the Super Bowl, and I'll take Kansas City.
Yeah, and that's another. If we have more time, we talk about Andy Reid because he's got a chance to get that reputation off of his back. I like your pick of going against the over because everybody's betting that, and I run away from those things. Jeff, great analysis. We appreciate your time. Enjoy yourself down in Miami at Super Bowl 54.
Try to enjoy yourself,
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one, man.
Always a pleasure, Jeff. Thank you.